Hi, it's Kane here. I was actually inspired today. I know, on the Hummingbird forums to create a video on how I would make Sword Art Online not a bad show. I guess I could make this a series and call it "Make Anime Great Again" or something along those lines. I spent about 5 minutes thinking of that name. So starting off with episode 1, we would be showing Kirito in real life more. This is purely to show in a better way uh, exactly what he is like in real life. For instance, in the actual show, Klein says something along the lines of Kirito likes to hang by himself and he's very direct. And he's not too good in social situations. Um, of course, he could say that, or you could just show him in real life being quite a loner, just heading home after school or whatever he's doing at age 14 in Japan, and playing his video games. Maybe playing the beta, just show him playing on a keyboard and mouse instead of on the virtual reality headgear. That'd be pretty. That'd be a nice little touch on what it was like in the beta versions of the game. Um, and also it would show the game from a different perspective and show and really emphasize that it is actually just a game, and from the outset it is quite an innocent kind of experience to be taking part in. Episode 1 overall I felt was quite enjoyable. It did a good job of setting the scenes. The visuals and the directing of each scene was quite good, I suppose. Wherein it gave a good overview of what the world they're in is like, uh, who the opening characters are, Klein, Kirito, I forget his name, the big dude in charge, how much it did really did show the shock of being revealed that, hey, if you die in this game, you are dead. Um, so episode 1 does a good job, but that's the small thing that I would add. Um, I'd like to say kind of as an overall point for the show that it would be good if they made Kirito a bit weaker. However, he it's kind of it's a core component of the show that he isn't weak and he is very strong. So changing that would be completely changing the show, which isn't something I'm looking to do. It's um I'm just looking to make amendments where I can to make the show not bad. Um, I have got a cup of tea here, being British. So episode two being also quite enjoyable, but there are a few more points than episode 1. Diabel, however you want to say it. He actually does a really good job of what he's supposed to be doing. He appears, he doesn't have too much emotional background. He is made to look quite strong. He knows what he's talking about. He was a beta tester. However, he still manages to die. He gets slaughtered very quickly due to a mistake he made, which shows the kind of the danger in the world. Um, I think the main addition I'd add is I would want Asuna to kind of reveal why she's a cloaked loner. Why does she just show up cloaked, antisocial? Who even is she? And then she just groups up with Kirito. It just happens. Um, It'd be nice to see why she is such a loner, why she is in a hood and why she's down and how why overall. The fight scene towards the end was of good quality. It had some tactics included, showing the switch turn where they jump in, jump out. Kind of shows the gameplay mechanics behind the game. The death itself of Diabell is I suppose the best thing to say is it's a bit pointless. Or it's not pointless. It does have a point to it, but it doesn't make too much sense. I mean, as a beta tester in a world where you've been told you are dead if you die, if you die in the game, you are dead. Um, you're kind of put, why would you run in and take risks in order to get a rare bit of gear from the first level that would then be useful for the first level, but useless in kind of later levels? I mean, most games you wouldn't really give much for a first level bit of gear, since just later on you're going to be getting much better gear. You definitely wouldn't risk your real life for that. I'm pretty sure. Um, the unexplained personality change from Kirito is something else I very much despise. He for no reason takes a heel turn, becomes an evil guy, and then That's it. The episode 3, he's absolutely fine. He's in his guild. But moving on to episode 3, actually. Um, in fact, just on the end of episode 2, I'd like to add that if they added a party member or a friend to Diabell, there's a better way that they could have kept the same cliffhanger, is if Diabell had a friend and he blamed Kirito for his death, he would then charge in. This introduces PvP combat, which isn't something actually mentioned beforehand, and Kirito would, of course, parry and knock him away. At which point he can turn his back on the party and say, I don't need you guys. I'm going to do my own thing. You guys don't want me. I don't want you." He then gets his cloak on, then storms off, leaving them. Episode 3, though, quite a few more changes to this actually as compared to episode 2. Um, what I would have is instead of having episode 2 then episode 3, I'd have episode 3 first. The major change with this is instead of having Kirito meet up with this guild, this group of players, I actually have Asuna as part of this group. This removes the romance, removes the harem subplot that the show has, and instead acts as a reason for why she's cloaked. As I mentioned earlier, they don't give a reason for that, but it also gives Asuna time to develop alone, and it serves to show the depth of characters in small places outside boss battles. The show just says 2,000 players have died in the first month. Why hasn't Asuna died? What's she been doing for that 2 months? How have they died? Have they just died to boars outside the city? I mean, that's pretty poor as a player. And or maybe they've stumbled across a boss and they've all died in boss battles like Diabell. So that's the only on-screen death we've seen. So yeah, have some more player, because that episode 3 is very important for the show. Um, it shows those small character deaths, but they should have done it with Asuna to build her character, and it also removes the harem effect that a lot of people despise in the show. We do have to keep some of the harem parts in just because that's the way the show is. I don't want to change it too much, but the Sachi is just, it's a 1 episode love arc for no reason other than hey, it's a cute sad girl who then dies. So in episode 4, I think it's actually quite a good episode, and it does exposit the concept of PvP combat and well, not just PvP combat, but PvP kills. We've covered the availability of PvP combat in episode 2 with my changes, or episode 3 after you swap them around. And also, I noticed that the starting point for the episode, where Kirito just shows up behind the 3 trolls, it works in perfectly with the ending to episode 2, where he walks off on his own. So the synopsis itself, so here's where you really see the issue. It says, the guild then realizes Kirito is Infamous Beater, the Black Swordsman, and get frightened but attack anyway. However, Kirito is revealed to be level 78 with a health pool of 14,500 with an auto regeneration healing skill, causing him to effortlessly outmatch and detain the members of Titan's Hand. After they retrieve the flower, Silica revives Peanut and thanks Kirito greatly. Firstly, Kirito did one act in front of a small group of players, the clear group, and then suddenly he's a huge antagonist to everyone. Everyone knows him. I'm not sure how exactly that happened. I would have preferred it if he announced that he was part of the clearer group. It shows the honor that he does have, that he will say, look, I'm better than you. I would recommend not fighting me. Kirito leveled up quicker as a solo player. I feel if this was going to happen, it should have been explained. I don't feel it should have happened at all, but they should have at least explained that the solo player will level faster, since in most games I've played, very similar leveling speeds when you level as a group. In fact, World of Warcraft is typically quicker when you're leveling as a group. And a regeneration skill, because he wasn't already overpowered enough, being multiple levels higher than the opposition. The way you would fix this scene is by having the fight come to a resolution by Kirito actually being better other than just being off-screen better, where he just gets more powerful over time. The battle would start fairly. He would state that he's part of the clearer group, and the enemy would be concerned and less likely to work together well, a bit startled, but they still go attack as they do in the actual show. He would then use his abilities in coordination with Silica's, something he learnt from being a clearer, and something he learnt from his beta play, that you can work together to use your abilities. They would then destroy the bridge that they're fighting on, creating a gap, They would then move away from each other, and that resolves the combat. The episode would then close much the same, without Kirito being pointlessly more powerful, but also being visibly better at the game than the average player, as shown by this combat. During episode 5, I would personally add a whole new episode here. I can't go into the detail for 20 minutes since I'm not an anime creator. I can't say, oh, I storyboard it. What I can do is I would say, I would have Asuna joining her guild, the Crimson or whatever, the forgot the name, but basically she'll join their guild, rise up the ranks. They're doing a quest together as a group, where she finds Kirito again, who's also doing the same quest. In order to complete the quest, they capture him, but knowing him and knowing he's a very strong player, what she would do is she would then capture him with her group and say, "Look, we'll give you the quest item that you clearly want, but on the condition you have to join our guild." He then continues to join the guild and climbs the ranks of Asuna, so they're back together. Excellent. Instead of the reason for this, is because currently he just kind of appears and he's part of the guild, and she appears and she's vice captain. Where did vice commander? Where did this happen? Here you can see it happen. But don't worry, we do cut the episode down, count down again, so we're not going to have too many episodes and make Alfheim even worse than it is. Not that I'm going to bother going into Alfheim. Episode 5 and 6, or 6 and 7 in our storyline, it'll pretty much stay the same. It's just a side story, really. It happens. Episode 7 or 8 in our world is just another adventure in Ironcrad. You get another girl in the harem, Lisbeth. Not much changes. Asuna joins the party for their adventure to kill the big dragon. That would be the change I make. Just because I feel that Lisbeth and Asuna play off each other well as characters for kind of a comedy element into the harem, because just having Kirito beating another girl who falls in love with him for no reason is a bit pointless. I at least want it to be a bit funny if it's going to happen. Episode 8 or episode 9 in our world, literally just delete it. It's 20 minutes of fan service. The only extra thing is that it shows Asuna's rank, it shows how Kirito feels about his guild and his group, and it makes Kirito look a bit cooler, which is all stuff that's already been accomplished in episode 5 that I added because I'm that great of an anime director. Episode 9 is when the show gets a bit ridiculous with the power increases to Kirito. The only way to keep the story would be to have a short scene at the start where Kirito levels up his one-hand sword skill to 100/100, gets his skill cape if he was in playing RuneScape, and he unlocks the ability. It would be a cool ability where he gets his second sword to appear. Excellent. And this kind of stops him, but it's got a cooldown to it, so it stops him from being an Impa character for no reason that nobody else can no one else can get this skill, because they can. If they leveled up and if they knew what to level up, as Kirito does, they would know to get that one-hand skill, and no one else has thought of doing that. So he still gets his overpowered ability, he still gets his fame, and he still gets his he can still get his ass kicked. I don't like the ability overall still, on the basis of the so overall, I don't like it on the basis of it being a Deus Ex Machina for whenever something goes wrong. It's, oh, I use my cooldown and fight. It's a bit like a Dragon Ball where Goku can just power up to the next Super Saiyan level to beat any enemy. He can just whip out his two swords and he's fine. There's that's the core of why it's not a very good ability, but it makes it a bit more balanced. A small side note, Asuna's attacks kind of just bounce off the boss and doesn't do much other than distract it, saving someone's life, and she gets punched. That's it. It'd be cool if it had a clear effect on the boss, like knocked off a bit of his armor or something, or like chopped off some of his tail, or one of his horns would be quite decent. That'd be pretty cool if they did that. Episode 10 and 11, much the same as usual. Kind of episode 10 is just fans. Just cool plot points where he's fighting Heathcliff in the arena. That just happens. He finds out about the immortality stuff. got to keep it in there, even though it's not an amazing story, but it's still the core of the story, so it has to stay. Episode 11, however, that's purely fan service, but I feel that it can stay in there. You know, it kind of slows the show down and gives kind of a break before the finale. You don't want to just power through the show with non-stop action. It would be cool if there is that short break in there that just kind of lets you explore the characters a bit more. You find out a bit more about Kirito. You find out a bit more about Asuna and their feelings and their relationship. The change would, of course, be that Yui no longer exists, and there's a big one. Yui no longer exists, does not exist, and neither does the Game Master console. It's complete bullshit that like he just gets God mode. Like they've literally just given him God mode and like admin powers. It's it's like fighting the operator of a Minecraft server. It's like it's fucking dumb. What's the point? Um, so yeah, episode 12. Instead of Yui saving Kirito, he'd actually be saved by his allies. I mean, that's a bit cooler. He actually sees a outcome of these side stories he's been on, where he's helped Lisbeth, where he's helped Silica, to kind of to stop the gankers and save the Silica's familiar, to help Lisbeth kill that dragon. It adds up because they come back and help. They help out, which is good. Instead of Yulia from the army arriving to tell them to go to kill this boss, instead it's Yulia from the guild to cut the holiday short, which is where they meet the boss I just mentioned that they killed, thanks to their allies showing up. Episode 13 doesn't exist. Matt Hardy deleted it, something along those lines. However, episode 14, that's where they fight. So after they fight Fatal Scythe in episode 12, towards the end, they hear the sound of battle. They run to it. Cut to credits. Episode 14 opening. And they run into this fight and it's awful. People dying everywhere. People on the floor wounded. Silica runs in. She starts casting healing spells. Trying to keep these people alive. Asuna runs straight over to Heathcliff and tries to manage the battle and be the vice commander she is. Heathcliff's of course full health; he's immortal. There's a bit more fighting when Kirito uses his cooldown to completely destroy the boss. As I said, it's a bit dumb, but it happens. He then proceeds to challenge Heathcliff as he does. Everyone gets paralyzed, but instead of using god powers to win this time, there's actually going to be a choreographed fight scene. So Kirito would have his duel, but during a vital moment, his sword skill runs out. The other sword just disappears. You know, like when they die, it turns to pixels and goes away. That's what happens to his second sword, and he's left with one. He gets knocked back and he's on the floor. Heathcliff does the antagonist thing and monologues. While monologuing, Kirito slides between his legs, like charges at him, slides between his legs, goes for the backstab, gets parried, and his weapon actually gets destroyed and he gets knocked back. However, fortunately, he falls to Asuna's feet. Heathcliff beginning to charge him down, going for the final killing blow. Kirito pulls out Asuna's sword, so Asuna still plays a helping role. That is some good tea. Yeah, Asuna still plays a helping role, pulls out a sword, shoves it forward, and Heathcliff dies as well as Kirito, much the same actually as the original show ended. You then of course have the ending scene where they explain the world, explain why he did it, where he then wakes up and he runs to the hospital. He's already exchanged names with Asuna, and then he finds her still asleep, and that's where Alfheim starts. Overall, I really like the way that this version of the story pans out. There's a lot less of the spontaneous power upgrades for no reason, and you've also got the concept of also got a lot of the weak concepts, such as the harem, just removed. Since it's only two girls and an Asuna. The two girls are more side characters. You've got your healer character, Silica. You've got your support to make the weapons. Kind of back at home, making the weapons for them. You got Lisbeth, so they actually have roles in the combat as well as just being the side characters, side girls. And overall, it's it's just a lot more plausible, really, which is saying quite a lot for a show about getting trapped in a virtual reality video game. Um, but yeah, that's how I would make anime great again for Sword Art. Enjoy. I hope you have enjoyed.